I folded Mavis's wheelchair at the Harrisburg Hospital curb and tested its latch, then saw my wife kiss Paul beside his accessible van. Renee held his shirt with one hand and Mavis's discharge folder with the other. Alana Webb, the hospital safety coordinator, came through the sliding doors before I could move. She handed me the care plan naming Paul as the primary overnight caregiver. Under emergency backup, Renee had listed Graham Holt and my phone number. I was Graham, Renee's husband, and Mavis's son-in-law. We were in Pennsylvania to complete Mavis's discharge, and my job was to get her home safely. I opened the schedule across the wheelchair seat. Most daytime spaces held names, but 3 overnight spaces were blank. Renee pointed toward the van. Paul is handling the care now. Then why am I his backup? I asked. Her face tightened while Paul stood silently by the lowered ramp. My number appeared beside a promise to respond at any hour, though nobody had asked me. Those blank nights made the promise look less like an emergency plan. Mavis waited inside in a hospital transport chair, tired, sore, and ready to leave. I wanted that too, but not inside a plan built on missing people. I gave the sheet back to Alana. Please verify every person before we load her. Renee stepped between me and the doors. You're delaying her discharge over something private. The kiss is private, I said. This sheet is about her safety. Alana studied the empty columns, then clipped the plan inside her folder. Mavis stays inside while we confirm the coverage. The van ramp remained down while the wheelchair stayed folded beneath my hands. Paul now had to answer 2 questions. Which nights had he accepted? And did he know Renee had promised him my labor? Alana led us into a small discharge office where a white table filled most of the room. She placed the care plan in the middle and opened her notebook. At that hospital, each named caregiver had to accept assigned shifts directly. It was part of that hospital's safety process, not a rule across Pennsylvania. Paul sat across from me, Renee took the chair beside him, and I remained standing until my hands stopped shaking. I pointed to his name. Did you agree to be the primary overnight caregiver? Paul rubbed his palms against his jeans. I agreed to help Renee with her mother. That was not my question, I said. Renee leaned forward. Graham has barely slept for months. Paul has a safe house and an accessible van. Then she added, this is what stepping aside looks like. Her words carried enough truth to hurt, because I had been tired. Still, I had never agreed to disappear on paper while remaining available by phone. I turned the schedule toward Paul. Which nights did you accept? He followed the rouse with one finger. I can do some nights. Name them, I said. Paul studied the page. Tuesday and Thursday should work. Maybe Sunday? Alana wrote each answer beside the printed schedule while leaving the other nights untouched. Renee tapped the emergency line as Paul looked down at my name, and his finger stopped. That is why backup exists. What does guaranteed backup mean? Paul asked. It means Renee promised I would come if you called, I said. He looked at her. You said Graham already covered emergencies. Renee kept her eyes on him. I said he knows her care better than anyone. That is not the same thing, Paul said. Renee faced me again. You have answered every late call for years. I had no reason to expect a refusal now. You had one reason, I said. You never asked. I slid the page closer to Paul. Did you know my number was being submitted? No, Paul said. I tapped the blank rows. Did you know 3 nights had no assigned caregiver? No, he answered again. His answers were plain and separated his offer from Renee's claim, though they did not excuse the affair. Alana marked the 3 confirmations in her notes. Paul had offered general help and accepted only 2 firm nights, but he had not known I was guaranteed backup. Renee's replacement plan had become smaller each time someone spoke clearly. She closed the folder, but Alana placed her hand over it, and the discharge hold remained. I looked at Renee. Why did you submit my name without consent? She stared back without answering, leaving one question beneath that silence. Was Paul truly replacing me, or was Renee only moving my work out of sight? Alana took Mavis back toward her room, while my mother-in-law looked over her shoulder as the transport chair rolled away. I raised one hand to reassure her because I did not trust my voice. Renee followed me into the loading bay, where the van ramp still touched the pavement. Paul had gone inside with another copy of the schedule. You embarrassed us, Renee said. I asked him what he agreed to do, I replied. Renee tightened her hold on the folder. You made Mavis wait because you saw me kiss someone. I stopped because my name was on a false care plan, I said. Renee folded her arms. It was not false. It needed adjustment. I held her gaze. Are you having an affair with him? She did not look away. Yes, Paul and I are together. The words struck harder because she kept them short. How long? I asked. 3 weeks, Renee said. 5 weeks earlier, she had started asking how many nights I could keep working, and I had thought she was worried about me. Renee glanced toward the hospital doors. Paul is replacing you in the daily care. He has the right house, the van, and enough time. Except for the nights assigned to me, I said. They were emergencies, Renee replied. I pointed toward the folder. Blank shifts are not emergencies. She pressed it against her chest. Every delay makes Mavis weaker. Do you want that on your conscience? That was Renee's sharpest tool because she could turn my concern into proof that I should obey her. Alana returned alone. I need routine details while the schedule is corrected. That includes meals, movement, and the usual medication times. I knew those details, and holding them back would punish Mavis instead of Renee. I'll provide care information, I said. I will not promise my time. Renee's shoulders eased. Fine. I'll make a complete schedule tonight. Every shift will be visible. It sounded like the first useful sentence since the curb. We discuss Mavis only, I said. Nothing about our marriage until her plan is safe. Renee agreed, but I did not mistake that for peace. Our care-only truce was narrow enough to stand for one night. Inside Mavis's room, I explained that the paperwork needed correction while she watched Renee place the folder on her bedside table. I listed Mavis's usual meals and safe transfer steps for Alana, then explained which pill organizer matched each day, giving facts instead of consent. Renee promised to send an open schedule by morning. For a moment, I believed daylight might force honesty into the plan. Before I left, she asked for my 6-week care calendar. I'll bring a copy, I said. The original stays with me. Now I had to decide which facts helped Mavis and which Renee might use to volunteer me again. That evening, I returned to the school where I worked because the halls outside the library needed wax before Monday. I pushed the scrubber past rows of paper stars, each carrying a student's name. My name had appeared on Mavis's plan just as neatly, placed there by someone else. The machine drifted toward a wall, but I corrected it before the brush struck the baseboard. Fatigue had started leaving marks on my work, and I had mixed 2 cleaning solutions the month before, wasting both, although neither was dangerous. I had also left my keys inside the supply room twice. A teacher found me asleep in my truck after lunch, but I called it a short rest. At my desk, I opened the calendar I kept for Mavis, with 6 weeks covering 12 printed pages. I marked every overnight call in blue and each morning when I went straight to school, with some days holding less than 4 hours between those marks. There were calls after midnight for confusion, bathroom help, or fear. None had seemed large alone, but together they filled the calendar like water rising in a sink. I found the Tuesday when I had missed an evening pill, and Mavis had asked the next morning why 1 tablet remained in the cup. I had blamed the blank calendar square on my pen, but beneath the hard office light, I admitted exhaustion had caused me to miss the dose. No harm had followed, but that did not make the mistake imaginary. I drew a box around it, then added Renee's questions from 5 weeks earlier about how many nights another person would need to cover. 4 weeks earlier, Renee had asked whether a 1-story house would be easier for Mavis, before the 3-week affair Renee had admitted. She had studied my limits before she became Paul's lover. That did not prove every early question was dishonest. It showed Paul had first entered the plan as possible help, with the romance coming later. I finished the hall and stood at one end, where the wax reflected every ceiling light except beside a dull strip near the lockers. Records worked that way, showing what happened, including the parts I wanted hidden. I copied the calendar and placed the original in my work bag, refusing to use years of service to claim Mavis belonged to me. I needed someone to examine the documents, who could separate my right to refuse labor from my wish to protect her. Renee spread a new schedule across our kitchen table Friday morning. She had used wide columns and dark print, making the plan look possible for the first time. Paul would handle breakfast and morning care, while Renee covered most afternoons. They had also arranged help for bathing and 2 medical visits. I kept my calendar beside hers and checked 1 day at a time. Tuesday night belongs to Paul, I said. Yes, Renee replied. I moved to the next marked row. Thursday too. Yes, she said again. I tapped the last entry. Sunday says Paul if available. He expects to be available, Renee said. That is not an accepted shift, I replied. Renee took a pen and wrote his name more firmly. Darker ink did not turn an expectation into consent. Friday night held Renee's name, but Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday nights remained blank. I circled each gap. She watched the pen move. You are making this harder than it is. Who stays with her on those nights? I asked. Renee pointed toward the open rows. No one has to sit awake all night. You never did. I stayed in the house, I said. That is different from nobody being there. Renee pointed to the emergency line where my name and phone number remained unchanged. You would only answer if something happened, she said. A planned empty night is not an emergency, I replied. Renee held my gaze. You are family. So is Paul now, according to you, I said. Her mouth tightened as the useful morning began slipping away from us. Still, the daytime coverage was better than anything we had shared before. It gave me a brief picture of Mavis at home, without one exhausted person carrying every hour. I wanted that picture to be real. If someone has ever volunteered your time without asking, tell me what boundary you set. I needed one then, though I had not found the words yet. I placed my calendar beside Renee's schedule. These are the hours I worked. This is not a promise to continue them. She looked at the boxed medication mistake without mentioning it. Her finger rested there long enough for me to notice. I need the final hospital instructions, I said. That means diet, transfers, medication changes, and everything else. They will appear in the care portal, Renee said. I need access before anyone relies on this schedule, I replied. She frowned. You already have access. I had it yesterday, I said. I need to know I still have it after the revisions. Renee gathered the pages into a neat stack. She left my copy on the table, including the 3 circles. We agreed on transparency, I reminded her. And I gave you a schedule, Renee said. You gave me 3 blank nights and called me an emergency, I replied. She walked out carrying the final packet. I remained beside 2 calendars that told different stories. The truce still had 1 test left. Could I see the actual instructions before Renee submitted another promise in my name? At the hospital family workstation, I entered my password and found a plain notice. My access to the care portal had ended. Portal access was only permission to view care instructions. It did not give me ownership of Mavis's records or legal control over her care. Losing it still left me blind to the revised plan. Alana joined me beside the screen. Renee withdrew the viewing permission that was on file. Did Mavis ask for that? I asked. Alana kept her voice careful. I cannot discuss protected updates you no longer have permission to view. Her answer did not accuse Renee, and it did not help me verify anything. Can my name still appear as a caregiver? I asked. Only if you confirm a shift directly, Alana said. The hold remains while we check the plan. That kept my labor from becoming official without me. But it did not show what Renee had changed. She arrived carrying a clean folder. The schedule inside had no circles visible from where I stood. You removed my access, I said. Renee held the folder against her side. I removed confusion. Paul and I are handling the instructions now. Does the new plan still list my phone number? I asked. You said you would provide care information, Renee replied. I provided facts, I said. I did not provide myself. Renee handed the folder to Alana. This version covers everything. Alana accepted it without endorsing it. I will contact each named person. I asked Renee to show me the overnight page. No, she said. You are no longer part of daily care. Then remove me from every line, I replied. Renee shook her head. You cannot demand information after insisting you have no responsibility. She had built a neat trap around my concern. If I cared, she called me responsible, but refusing labor meant I had no right to see the plan. Alana kept the submitted copy for review, while Renee carried a second packet toward the curb. Paul's accessible van waited outside. Renee used his keys to lower the ramp, placed the packet on the passenger seat, and drove away. The same van that had looked like useful equipment now carried the plan beyond my sight. My first direct loss was complete. I could not view instructions, compare revisions, or know what Mavis had been told. I still controlled my own labor, but not Mavis, her records, or Renee's next move. Before another discharge attempt, I needed a clear answer about my actual authority. Did being Mavis's son-in-law give me any standing beyond telling the truth and refusing my name? Friday at noon, I carried 2 calendars and a thick folder into Judith Beck's office. Judith was the elder law advisor a teacher from my school had recommended. Her office stood above a pharmacy near the river, without a grand desk or polished conference table. She cleared a square space beside her yellow pad, and I placed Mavis's care logs there, followed by Renee's open schedule. The circles marked nights without confirmed help, I said. My phone number remained on the emergency line. Judith read both pages, then compared my work calendar with every shift I had recorded. You kept detailed notes, she said. I thought good records would protect Mavis, I replied. They may, Judith said, but they may also show where you made mistakes. I felt the boxed medication entry through several pages. There is one. We will reach it, she said. The folder also held a copy of Mavis's signed planning document. I had assumed it gave Renee full authority and left me standing beside her. Judith read each section twice, and her pen stopped at several narrow paragraphs. This does less than you believed, she said. Does that help me stop the discharge? I asked. It may help define the choices, Judith replied. Stopping everything is a different question. She turned to the papers from Paul's proposed house. The contractor's estimate described a front ramp, bathroom rails, and a widened doorway. A date appeared above Renee's name, and I leaned closer. That was requested 6 weeks before she said the affair began. Judith checked the date against my written timeline. Was Paul already helping with Mavis then? Renee said he became involved after their relationship started. The estimate suggests earlier planning, Judith said. It does not tell us what kind. That difference mattered, because Renee had discussed Mavis's care with Paul before the romance, she admitted. The page did not prove why she started those talks. Judith placed the estimate beside Renee's schedule. One document made Paul's house look prepared, while the other left 3 nights empty. The ramp may be useful, she said. Useful equipment does not accept an overnight shift. Her words stripped away my easiest anger. Paul's house could offer Mavis something our split-level house could not. That still did not turn my phone number into staffing. So I asked the question that had followed me from the hospital. Can I stop Renee from placing Mavis there? Judith folded her hands over the narrow document. First, we determine what belongs to Mavis, Renee, and you. My marriage gave me less standing than I had imagined, but my labor still required my consent. The next answer would decide my course. Could I challenge the plan itself, or only remove myself from it? Judith kept the planning document open between us and pointed to the paragraph bearing Mavis's initials. A power of attorney gives only the powers written in the document, she said. Its authority also depended on the document's terms and Mavis's ability to make her own decisions. Renee could act in certain financial and care matters when those terms applied. She could not erase Mavis's choices during a clear interval. She also cannot promise your labor, Judith said. I understood that part immediately, but the rest landed harder. I have cared for Mavis almost every day, I said. Does that give me any voice? It gives you knowledge, Judith replied. It does not make you her owner or automatic decision-maker. The word owner stung because I had never used it, yet my actions had carried that belief around without naming it. I wanted Mavis safe, but I also wanted my judgment to prevail. Judith drew 3 short columns on her pad and labeled them labor, evidence, and contact. You control whether you work, she said. You can provide truthful records and request contact with Mavis. And placement? Mavis decides when she can, Judith replied. Otherwise, authority follows the actual document and the required care process. I looked at the care logs stacked beside my wrist. Renee will use my mistake against me. Then we do not hide it, Judith said. I opened the calendar to the boxed entry. On that Tuesday, I had missed one of Mavis's evening pills. I found it in the organizer the next morning, then called the nurse, followed her instructions, and marked the error. I was exhausted, I said. That explains it, but it does not excuse it. Judith copied the date and my response. A complete record includes facts that hurt you. My face warmed, though nobody else was present. Admitting the mistake felt like handing Renee a sharpened tool, but hiding it would weaken every other page. Judith drafted a short statement in plain language. It said I had not accepted emergency shifts, overnight coverage, or unpaid backup work. The statement also said I would share accurate routine information when Mavis consented. I requested direct contact and safety updates through proper channels. but nothing in it demanded control over the discharge. I read it twice. "This feels small." "It is narrow," Judith said. "Narrow can still be firm." She attached my complete care calendar, including the boxed medication error, then placed the ramp estimate behind Renee's submitted schedule. I signed my name beneath the refusal. The pen did not restore my portal access or my place beside Mavis. It only separated past care from future consent, and that line was the first honest boundary I had made. Judith gave me a copy and sealed another for the hospital. "Deliver this before any revised plan is accepted." I left her office with less authority and a clearer duty. I had to lodge the truth before Renee built another plan around my silence. Friday afternoon, I placed Judith's sealed statement before Alana in the hospital planning room. Renee sat across from me with her clean folder closed. Alana read my refusal, then reviewed the attached calendars. "This confirms you have accepted no future shifts," Alana said. "That includes emergency backup," I replied. Alana added the statement to the planning file. "Any proposed caregiver must accept each assigned shift directly." Renee pressed one hand against her folder. "Graham is making a family disagreement sound dangerous." "I am correcting a promise made in my name," I said. I slid Paul's ramp estimate across the table, and Renee recognized it before she saw the date. "You told me Paul became part of Mavis's care after the affair started," I said. "This estimate came earlier." Alana kept her attention on the care documents. The affair itself did not confirm staffing or decide hospital action. Renee traced the date with one finger. "I asked Paul about helping before anything romantic happened." "How long before?" I asked. "About 6 weeks," she replied. "He knew contractors and owned an accessible van." The answer matched the estimate and changed the order I had carried in my head. Renee had not brought her lover into Mavis's care after choosing him. She had first recruited a possible helper, then started sleeping with him. "That does not make the affair responsible," I said. "I did not say it did," Renee replied. "I was trying to solve a real problem." "You hid both the relationship and his limits." Renee opened her folder. "Paul's limits are not what you claim." Inside was a plan centered on his one-story house. It listed the ramp, wide bathroom, van, daytime help, and Renee's own hours. The overnight page remained turned away from me. Alana asked Renee whether Paul had personally confirmed every listed period. Renee said he would confirm them during the next review. "That answer must come from Paul," Alana said. Renee looked at me again. "You wanted your name removed. Now we have a plan that does not need you." Her words should have relieved me, but I remembered the dark ink over an uncertain Sunday. The estimate proved Paul's practical role had started before the romance. Renee's direct admission established what followed, without any private search by me. Neither fact filled an empty night. Alana kept my refusal and scheduled direct confirmation of the revised plan. Renee left carrying the copy meant for Paul. I had answered her hidden promise with a signed limit, and Renee had answered by offering a house built around someone else. Now she had to prove that her replacement could serve without reaching back for me. Saturday morning, I visited Paul Dane's house outside Harrisburg. Paul was Renee's lover and her proposed replacement caregiver. His brick house sat on a level lot with a new ramp beside the front steps. The slope was gentle, and both rails felt solid beneath my hands. Paul opened the wide front door. "A wheelchair clears this without turning sideways." Renee followed us through a bright living room and pointed toward a bedroom near the bathroom. "No stairs, no narrow hall, and no basement laundry," she said. Those details mattered because our house had steps at both entrances, and Mavis's bedroom was also on the second floor. Paul's bathroom had a level shower and rails near the toilet. A bench stood folded against one wall. I tested the bedroom path with a borrowed wheelchair, and it passed each doorway without scraping the frame. "The physical setup is good," I said. Paul gave a short nod. "That is what I have been saying." Good access did not settle the staffing question, but it made the proposal harder to dismiss. On the kitchen counter, Renee spread the revised care schedule. Paul covered breakfast, morning medicine, and several afternoon periods. Renee had marked her own name across most evenings. I looked for the overnight rouse. "Who stays here Monday night?" "Renee will be here late," Paul said. That was not my question. Renee tapped the bedroom wall. "Mavis usually sleeps through the night. She sometimes wakes confused and looks for the bathroom," I replied. Paul leaned against the counter. "Nights are manageable." Manageable by whom? I asked. He glanced at Renee before answering. We will arrange them. The word we carried no name or accepted shift, and it sounded much like Renee's old word, family. I opened the hall closet and found clear space for supplies. Paul had also installed a second smoke alarm near the bedroom. He had made thoughtful changes, and I could admit that without agreeing, the house was ready. Outside, his accessible van waited beside the ramp. Its lift worked smoothly, and the chair locks held when I tested them. Paul showed me the dated contractor's estimate. The finished work matched its promises. This was never some last-minute trick, he said. No, I replied. The ramp is real. Renee looked almost relieved. The missing nights are real, too, I added. Her relief disappeared. Mavis deserves a chance to see whether this works. I agreed with that, more than I wanted to, because a controlled test could reveal more than another argument. The house offered genuine access, privacy, and familiar people. It also rested on nighttime promises nobody would state plainly. Mavis now had a credible home option, but not a complete care plan. Would she choose a short trial with that gap still open? Sunday afternoon, we gathered in Mavis's hospital room. Mavis, my mother-in-law, sat upright beside the window. Alana placed the proposed schedule and my signed refusal on the bedside table. She remained present while the family discussed the choice. Renee sat nearest her mother. Paul's house has no stairs and you would have your own room. Mavis looked toward me. You inspected it? Yes, I said. The ramp, bathroom, and bedroom path all worked. Renee's shoulders eased until I continued. The overnight coverage was not complete when I visited. Mavis studied the schedule without touching it. Would you be there? Only for the task I accept, I replied. I will not be the hidden backup. Renee turned toward me. Nobody asked you to live there. My phone number was used to cover missing help. Mavis raised one hand and ended the exchange. Her fingers looked small against the white blanket. I do not want people fighting over where I sleep, she said. Renee softened her voice. Then try Paul's place. If you dislike it, we reconsider. What happens at night? Mavis asked. Renee said she and Paul would manage the schedule, and she stressed that Paul's room stood across the hall. Mavis looked at the papers again. Will someone be awake? Not every minute, Renee replied. Someone will be nearby. That answer did not promise an awake worker, but it told Mavis what Renee was offering. I kept my hands off the schedule. If I pushed too hard, concern would become control. You can say no, I told Mavis. You can also test the house for a limited time. Mavis asked how limited the test would be. I read the proposed times slowly. Monday morning at 9 until Thursday morning at 9. 72 hours, Renee said. Then we review what happened. Mavis repeated the days to herself. Monday morning through Thursday morning. She asked whether the ramp had been built and inspected, so Renee showed her the completed work beside the dated estimate. The estimate supported a short test of the house. It did not prove that each shift had a person. Mavis drew the schedule closer. I want to try it for those 3 days. Alana wrote the exact start and end beside Mavis's choice, then attached one condition to the trial. If any named shift failed, Renee or Paul had to call the hospital team directly. They could not quietly assign the gap to me. Mavis placed her initials beside the trial period. Her decision carried a fear I understood. She wanted familiar care without surrendering herself to a facility, and she also wanted the arguing to stop. The discharge hold now narrowed into a timed test. Monday at 9 would begin it, and Thursday at 9 would end it. Renee and Paul had 72 hours to prove their plan. Could they complete those hours without treating me as invisible reserve labor? Monday morning of week 2, I met the accessible van at Paul's house before 9. The 72-hour trial would end Thursday morning at the same time. My agreed task covered the arrival and one demonstration of Mavis's routine. Paul lowered the van ramp while Renee released the wheelchair locks. I guided Mavis down, keeping one hand near the frame. At the porch, Paul reached for the chair handles. Keep the front wheel straight at the threshold, I said. Then push with steady pressure. He followed the instruction, and the chair rolled inside without catching. Renee carried Mavis's bag toward the bedroom. Mavis looked around the living room. It feels quieter than the hospital. That should help, Paul said. I showed him where Mavis preferred the wheelchair during meals, then demonstrated the safe angle for moving her from chair to bed. Paul copied each step with care. He watched my hands but asked few questions about later shifts. In the kitchen, I placed the pill organizer near the written schedule. Each section showed a day and time in large print. Check the organizer against the current instructions, I said. Do not rely on memory. Renee crossed her arms. We know how pills work, Graham. I missed one dose when I relied on routine, I replied. That is why the check matters. Paul looked from the organizer to my care calendar. What did you do after the mistake? I called the nurse, followed her directions, and recorded it. He nodded, then opened a kitchen drawer. Where do you keep your emergency call list? I kept one beside Mavis's home phone, I said. You need your own list here. Can I copy yours? You can copy the medical contacts Renee is allowed to share, I replied. My number is not an accepted shift. Paul closed the drawer without arguing. His question stayed with me because he had asked whom to call before spending one night there. I walked him through Mavis's lunch routine and the signs that meant she needed rest. Renee wrote down 2 details she had once left to me. At 11, my agreed task ended. Renee followed me to the front door. You could stay until she settles. She is settled, I said. Paul is here and you accepted the afternoon. This is exactly when family should be flexible. Flexibility requires a choice, I replied. You already made mine for me once. Mavis called my name from the living room, so I returned long enough to tell her goodbye. You are leaving already? She asked. My part was the arrival, I said. I will speak with you after the trial. She glanced toward Paul, then toward the kitchen schedule. All right. Thursday morning. I left while the house was calm and fully staffed. That departure placed practical control where Renee wanted it, with her and Paul. The ramp had worked, the transfer had worked, and Mavis appeared comfortable. Hope followed me halfway down the walk. Then I remembered Paul's question about my emergency list. The first overnight shift now belonged to the people who had accepted it. Would they complete it without calling the man they claimed to replace? Monday evening of week 2, I carried Mavis's dinner into Paul's kitchen, my only accepted task that night. Paul stood at the stove heating soup from a carton, while Mavis sat beside the pill organizer. I set down the covered plate and checked the posted schedule. Paul's name filled the evening box in blue ink. Renee's name had covered the first part of the night, but someone had erased it. A gray smear crossed the paper, leaving the space after midnight empty. Where is Renee? I asked. Paul lowered the heat under the soup. She had something to handle at home. Is she returning for the night? I asked. She said she would come back later, Paul replied. Mavis touched the Monday section of the pill organizer. She opened it, frowned, then closed it without removing anything. Is this the morning one? She asked. Paul turned from the stove. That is tonight's section, Mavis. She gave a quick, practiced laugh. I knew that. I was checking whether you did. I had heard her use that trick before. When a routine slipped away, she made the question sound like a test. I moved the organizer beside the written instructions. Check each section against this page. Paul nodded, though his attention stayed on the schedule. Renee will be here before it matters. What time did she accept? I asked. She did not give me an exact time, Paul said. I pointed to the erased name. Then who accepted the handoff at midnight? Paul wiped his hands on a dish towel. If something happens, who am I allowed to call? The medical contacts are on your list, I said. For staffing, call Renee or the hospital team. Paul looked at me. And if Mavis needs someone who knows her? My number is not an accepted shift, I replied. Mavis pressed both palms against the table. I do not need a committee for a bowl of soup. Her voice was firm, but she kept glancing at the organizer. I sat beside her and asked about the afternoon. She remembered lunch and the television program afterward. When I asked whether she had rested, she looked toward Paul before answering. I rested enough, Mavis said. Paul placed the soup before her and checked the instructions, matching the organizer to the correct evening section. The immediate task was covered because Paul was physically present. Staying longer would turn my meal delivery into another open shift. I folded the food bag and carried it toward the door. Paul followed me into the hall. Keep your phone close, all right? He asked. I have not accepted backup duty, I said. Paul lowered his voice. I am asking as a person, Graham. And I am answering as one, I replied. Call the people who accepted the night. Outside, I recorded the erased name and empty hours in my notebook. I also noted that Paul had not received a return time. Then I sat behind the wheel without starting the car. Refusing the shift was necessary, but Mavis had looked frightened by a plastic box she knew well. Could I silence my phone while that empty night box remained? At 1:17 early Tuesday morning, my phone rang beside the bed. Paul's name glowed across the screen. I answered because a call at that hour could mean immediate danger, though answering did not make the uncovered shift mine. Paul spoke quietly. "Mavis is awake, and she thinks she is at the hospital." "Where is Renee?" I asked. "She never came back," Paul said. "Did you call her?" I asked. Paul's breath caught. 6 times. "Graham, I cannot calm Mavis down." I told Paul to keep Mavis seated and turn on the kitchen lights. Then I dressed, recorded the call time, and drove to his house. Mavis sat at the kitchen table in her robe, with the closed pill organizer beneath both hands. Paul stood near the doorway with his phone. His face had lost the confidence he wore during the discharge. Mavis looked at me. "They moved my room without telling me." "No one moved it," I said. "You are at Paul's house for the trial." Her eyes traveled across the unfamiliar cabinets. "Then why is everybody gone?" "Paul is here," I told her. "I came after he called." I kept my voice low and asked about her old kitchen. She described the yellow curtains and the dent beside the pantry door. Those familiar details slowed her breathing, so I warmed water and placed her usual cup within reach. Paul watched every motion. I tried telling her the date. "Facts do not always settle fear," I said. "Start with what she knows." Mavis held the warm cup while I described Monday's arrival. I reminded her that the trial ended Thursday morning at 9. After several minutes, she recognized Paul and the kitchen. Her shoulders lowered, though she remained embarrassed. "I made trouble over nothing," Mavis said. "You woke in a strange house," I replied. "That can frighten anyone." Paul glanced at his unanswered messages. "Renee said she would be here overnight." "Was her shift confirmed?" I asked. Paul shook his head. "She told me not to worry about the schedule." I opened my notebook and showed him the empty night box. "She had no accepted time when I left." Paul rubbed his forehead. "I thought you were still available for emergencies." "I told both of you that I was not," I said. Paul pointed toward the call list. "She put your number on it." "She did that without asking me," I replied. Paul stared at the paper as if the erased line had changed shape. Until then, he had believed Renee's promise included my labor. Mavis finished her water and agreed to rest in the nearby bedroom. Paul helped her stand while I guided him through the calming routine once. When she settled, I called the hospital team's night number and reported the uncovered handoff and Paul's call at 1:17. I stated that Mavis was safe when I left. I also stated that I had not accepted the remaining hours. Paul walked me to the front door before 3. "What if she wakes again?" "Call Renee and the hospital team," I said. "Tell them the shift is uncovered." Paul looked down the hall. "You know that may end the trial." "The missing caregiver may end it," I replied. "Reporting the truth will not." I drove home with my work shirt hanging behind the seat. In 4 hours, I would be cleaning a school on almost no sleep. Paul's house had not operated independently for one night. Still, Renee could claim the rescue proved her plan worked because Mavis was sleeping safely. Tuesday morning, I reached the school maintenance office before the first bell, my eyes burning under the bright ceiling lights. I logged the overnight call at 1:17 and my arrival at 1:42. The account included Renee's absence, Mavis's confusion, and my departure before 3. Then I sent the factual account to Alana's hospital team without describing motives or calling anyone careless. The boiler panel needed its daily check, so I carried my clipboard downstairs. Halfway through the inspection, Renee called my phone. I returned to the office before answering. Machinery and marriage had both taught me to hear dangerous words clearly. Renee began with warmth. "Thank you for helping Mom last night." "She had an uncovered shift," I said. Renee dismissed that point. "She had a rough adjustment, and you helped Paul settle her." "That is not what the schedule promised," I replied. Renee paused before changing tactics. "This is how families work, Graham. People step in when plans change." "People agree before you assign their nights," I said. "You answered," Renee replied, "which means you understood the need." "I answered because Mavis was frightened," I said. "That was emergency aid, not consent for future shifts." Renee's voice softened again. "You were wonderful with her. Paul said she calmed down as soon as you arrived." Praise from my wife still reached an old place in me. For years, being useful had felt close enough to being loved. I looked at the keys hanging beside my desk. Every tag named a room or system with clear limits, unlike my role within the family. Renee continued, "Maybe this proves we can all cooperate." "It proves Paul called me because nobody covered the night," I said. "He called the person with the most experience," Renee replied. I tightened my grip on the phone. "You told him I was available." "I told him you would never abandon Mom," Renee said. The word abandon turned my boundary into cruelty. It also allowed Renee to avoid saying whether she had accepted the shift. "I sent the call time and schedule gap to the team," I said. Her warmth disappeared. "Did you include your own mistakes in that report?" My hand tightened around the phone because she meant the missed medication entry I had already shown Paul. "That report covered last night," I said. "My error remains in the care calendar." "Then stop acting like you are the safe one," Renee said before ending the call. The boiler alarm sounded downstairs, so I returned to the work I had accepted. I reset the panel after checking the pressure, then I wrote the action and exact time in the maintenance log. Clear records protected people when memory and pride became unreliable. That rule had to include my own failure. Renee had praised me while my labor supported her plan. Once I documented the gap, she reached for my worst recorded mistake. By afternoon, I would challenge her account before the team. Could I expose the empty shift without shrinking the error that belonged to me? Tuesday afternoon, I joined the hospital review call from my parked car, while Renee joined from Paul's house. Alana, the hospital safety coordinator, opened the call with the overnight report. Her role was to test this hospital's discharge plan, not settle our marriage. She confirmed my call time and asked Renee about the erased night entry. Renee answered evenly. My timing changed, but Paul remained in the house. "Did Paul accept the overnight shift?" Alana asked. Renee hesitated. "He knew he was helping Mom." "That does not answer the question," Alana said. Renee took a breath. "Paul expected Graham to remain available for emergencies." "I never accepted that role," I said. Renee replied at once. "Graham wants every weakness documented except his own." Paper rustled near her phone before she gave Alana the date of my missed medication entry. Earlier in the 6-week calendar, I had followed Mavis's routine from memory. I missed one evening pill and found it unopened the next morning. I had called the nurse, followed her directions, and recorded the error. None of that erased the missed dose itself. Alana asked me whether Renee's statement was accurate. "Yes," I said. "That account is accurate." Renee's voice sharpened. "He was handling the calendar then. He wants you to treat him as the safety expert now." "I am not asking you to treat me as the safe default," I said. "I am asking you to confirm every shift." Renee argued that one tired caregiver could be riskier than several flexible relatives. The point contained truth, which made it harder to dismiss. I had been exhausted, and exhaustion had helped cause my error. My years of care did not grant me a clean record. Alana asked whether I believed my old plan should be restored. "No," I said. "My plan depended too heavily on me. Paul's current plan still depends on me without my consent." Silence held for several seconds while Alana reviewed both records. "The medication error is relevant," she said. "So is an overnight shift that no one directly accepted." Renee said Paul had managed until he needed advice. "He requested Graham's physical help," Alana replied. "That is different from asking a question." Alana did not cancel the trial during the call because Mavis was stable and Paul remained at the house. However, the team would no longer treat either family plan as automatically safe. Each accepted shift needed a named person and direct confirmation. The statement stripped away the position I had quietly defended for years. I was experienced, but I was not beyond review. Before the call ended, Alana asked me to submit a corrected calendar showing my missed entry beside every uncovered period. Renee had exposed something true, and truth changed the argument. If I minimized my failure now, every blank box would become easier to ignore. Tuesday evening, I spread the care calendar across the Holt kitchen table. The house felt larger without Renee inside it. I marked my missed medication entry in plain words, adding the date, the nurse call, and the action taken afterward. Then I marked Monday night as uncovered after midnight. Beside it, I wrote Paul's call at 1:17 Tuesday morning. Alana called while I checked the remaining trial hours. I placed the phone beside the calendar and described each correction. "The medication error stands by itself," I said. "I am not asking you to soften it," Alana answered carefully. "Your response belongs in the record, but it does not cancel the error." "I understand," I said. "The same applies to Monday night," Alana continued. "Mavis ended safely, but the shift was still unconfirmed." I drew one line beneath the two events, while shame pressed against my ribs. Part of me wanted to add every successful year beside my mistake. That would have turned the calendar into a defense of my character. Mavis did not need my character defended. She needed the actual risks made visible. One error happened during an accepted shift, I said. The other risk came from a shift nobody accepted. That is the useful comparison, Alana replied. Neither fact proves a complete home plan. I looked at the remaining names. Paul covered Tuesday night, and Renee had accepted Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday night still contained a handoff written in pencil. Paul's name ended at 10, while Renee's began without a confirmed time. Has Renee directly accepted Wednesday night? I asked. Not yet, Alana said. The team requested confirmation. The trial still had one full day remaining, with Thursday at 9 as the scheduled end. I could not declare Paul's house unsafe from my kitchen. I also could not treat Mavis's silence as proof that she felt secure. Alana asked whether I had any accepted task on Wednesday. I agreed to deliver clothes in the morning, I said. Nothing beyond that. Then observe what you can without taking control of the visit, Alana replied. Her wording landed where it needed to land. My experience could help me notice fear, but it did not let me decide for Mavis. After the call, I copied the calendar and left every mark visible. My missed entry remained beside my name in the same dark ink. Renee's claim that I was the safe family answer had failed. Her claim that Paul was the safe replacement had failed as well. The next question belonged to Mavis herself. With one full day left, what had the trial felt like from her chair? Wednesday, with one day left, I carried Mavis's clean clothes into Paul's house. The trial would end Thursday morning at 9. Paul opened the door with an unshaven face and a coffee mug. He said Mavis had slept better Tuesday night. Mavis sat near the living room window wearing the same sweater as Monday. Her hair was brushed, though one sleeve was twisted at her wrist. I placed the clothes beside her bedroom and checked the clear path. Nothing blocked the wheelchair route to the bathroom. The posted schedule still hung in the kitchen. Paul's name covered Wednesday morning, while Renee's later hours remained written in pencil. Mavis watched me study the page. Are you inspecting us again? I brought your clothes and wanted to see how you felt, I said. Mavis frowned. I feel like everyone keeps asking how I feel. Paul rested his mug on the counter. The first night was the worst part. She knows the house now. Mavis looked toward him, then smoothed her twisted sleeve. I had one foolish spell. You were frightened, I said. That is not foolish. Paul shifted his weight. She settled down, and last night went well. I sat in the chair across from Mavis. What help do you want after the trial? She glanced toward the kitchen before answering. I want people to stop losing sleep over me. That is about us, I said. I asked what you want. Her fingers moved along the seam of her sweater. I want to know who is there when I wake. Paul spoke from the counter. Someone is always in the house. That is not the same thing, Mavis said. The firmness in her voice surprised Paul into silence. She looked back at me and lowered her voice. Monday night I did not know where the bathroom was, she said. I did not want to wake him again. Paul picked up his mug but did not drink. You could have called me. I already had, Mavis replied. Mavis had minimized the night because she feared becoming a burden. Her calm reports had hidden that fear from everyone testing the plan. She asked whether places with licensed care kept someone awake overnight. I explained only what mattered for her choice. Licensed residential care has staff present through the night, I said. The exact help depends on the place and its assessment. Mavis leaned toward me. So somebody is working, not just sleeping nearby? Yes, I said, if the program provides continuous night staff. Paul set down his mug harder than before. We are still learning her routine. The worst adjustment has passed. Maybe, Mavis said. Thursday has not passed. I did not argue for Paul's house or against it. I asked whether she wanted me present at the review. Mavis considered the question before nodding. I want you there, but I do not want you answering for me. I can do that, I said. She touched the pill organizer beside her chair, then removed her hand. This time, she did not pretend the unfamiliar routine made sense. I left after the agreed delivery carrying the empty laundry bag. Paul remained responsible for the morning, and Renee still owed direct confirmation for later hours. One day remained before the trial ended, Thursday at 9. The house still had to handle ordinary care without hidden help or another uncertain handoff. Thursday morning of week 2, I reached Paul's house at 8:27. Mavis had asked me to attend the 9 o'clock review. Paul stood in the doorway, waving both arms, and his face told me this was not a welcome. "Mavis fell," he said. "I need help getting her up." I found Mavis on the bedroom floor beside her wheelchair. She was awake and breathing evenly, but she held one wrist close. The wheelchair stood beside the bed with its wheels locked. Its folding latch remained firm. "What happened?" I asked. "I stepped out to load the van," Paul said. She tried moving into the chair alone. The clear path, wide doorway, and safety rail had all worked. The timely helper had not been inside the room. "Did you call for medical help?" I asked. "I called you," Paul said. I took out my phone and called 911, then told Paul not to lift her. He paced between the bed and doorway. "She may only have bruised it." "That is for medical staff to decide," I said. Mavis watched us without speaking, and fear tightened her mouth whenever Paul moved near her. I knelt several feet away and told her help was coming. I did not touch her wrist or attempt the transfer. Paul checked the kitchen clock. "The trial still runs until 9. "The scheduled end remains 9, I said. "That does not mean we ignore a fall." He held up his phone. "Renee says one fall proves nothing." "She's right about that much," I said. "One fall needs review, not an argument beside the bed." Paul wanted the trial to continue if Mavis could return that morning. He said his house had passed every physical check. I looked again at the latched wheelchair, and he was right about the equipment. That did not change who had been missing when Mavis needed help. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They checked Mavis, supported her wrist, and prepared her for transport. Paul gathered her bag while I wrote down the times. She had fallen before 8:25, and I had called for help at 8:30. The ambulance left for the hospital at 8:52. The trial had been due to end 8 minutes later. Paul stood beside the empty wheelchair. "We almost completed the full 72 hours. "Almost is the honest word," I said. I followed the ambulance in my truck, while Paul followed in his accessible van. At the hospital, the first examination suggested a minor wrist injury. Mavis still needed further review before anyone discussed another discharge. The trial had not failed because a latch broke. It ended because Mavis attempted a transfer while her named caregiver was elsewhere. That fact did not settle where she should live. It forced the hospital to ask a harder question. Was the fall one bad moment or evidence of a care plan built around missing people? Thursday afternoon, I sat across from Alana in the hospital safety office. Renee occupied the chair beside mine. Alana had the transport report and my overnight account. I placed the complete calendar between us. "The wheelchair stayed locked," I said. "The folding latch held." Alana nodded. "The hospital check found no equipment failure." Renee folded her arms. "Then this was one ordinary fall. Graham's medication mistake involved an actual missed dose." I felt the old urge to defend every year before that mistake. Instead, I turned the calendar toward Alana. "The missed entry is here," I said. "It happened during my accepted shift." I described the date, the nurse call, and my correction. I did not mention my long record unless Alana asked. Renee leaned toward the page. "He forgot medication while claiming he was the safe choice." "I did," I said. "That error belonged beside my name." The admission left my chest sore, but strangely open. Renee could still use the truth, but she no longer controlled it. Alana read both entries before speaking. One described my missed entry, while the other described Paul leaving during an expected transfer period. "These facts do not cancel each other," she said. "They also are not the same kind of failure." Renee shook her head. "A mistake is a mistake." Alana kept her voice level. "Graham made one documented error during a shift he accepted. He reported it and sought guidance." She touched the second entry on the calendar. "The trial also had repeated periods without confirmed coverage," Alana said. "This morning, Mavis attempted a transfer while Paul was outside." Renee said Paul had only stepped away for a few minutes. "A few minutes may be understandable," Alana replied. "It still belongs in the review." I told Alana that Paul had called me before calling for medical help. I gave her the exact times without guessing at his reasons. Renee turned toward me. "You arrived ready to prove the house could fail?" "I arrived because Mavis asked me to attend the review," I said. Alana stopped us with one raised hand. This process is not deciding which spouse has better motives. She looked at me first. Your honesty does not restore you as the default caregiver. I understand, I said. Then Alana looked at Renee. The working latch does not prove the staffing plan was complete. Renee's face tightened. What would satisfy you? Direct acceptance of each shift, Alana said. No implied family help and no emergency promise made for someone else. Alana would send separate confirmation pages to every proposed caregiver. Each person had to accept exact hours and duties in writing. My medication error would remain visible, along with the uncovered night and Thursday morning fall. That balance brought painful relief. I was neither cleared nor condemned, and neither was Paul. Mavis needed a plan that could survive without hiding either truth. By Friday, every proposed caregiver would face the same empty lines. Who would put a name beside the nights? Friday morning, Alana placed 3 separate schedules on the hospital planning table. One was for Renee, one for Paul, and one for me. Renee picked up Paul's copy. Why separate them if this is a family plan? So each person answers without assumptions, Alana said. She explained the rule in plain terms. A named shift meant one person accepted specific hours and duties in writing. Only accepted shifts would count in this hospital's discharge process. The rule belonged to this safety review, not every facility in Pennsylvania. Renee scanned the overnight rows. Families cannot reduce every emergency to a signature. An emergency is unexpected, I said. Night care is expected. She looked at my schedule. You have always handled the unexpected parts. I was listed without being asked, I replied. Alana moved my page away from Renee. Graham will answer his copy separately. Paul's page showed several daytime hours already proposed. Not one overnight line carried his signature. Renee tapped Monday through Thursday. Paul lives in the house. His presence should count. Sleeping in the building is not accepted overnight care, Alana said. He must agree to the duty. Renee asked, what if Mavis needs help outside his hours? Then the plan needs another person who agreed to those hours, Alana said. Renee pushed the schedule back. This punishes people for being flexible. It records who has actually said yes, I replied. Renee turned on me. You want Paul to fail? I want his answer to be his, I said. Alana gathered the pages into separate envelopes. She would send Paul's copy directly and record his response. Renee could propose other caregivers if they agreed for themselves. She could not promise my labor or Paul's. I asked Alana to include the full overnight period. A late evening name followed by an early morning name still left a gap. Alana added a line for every handoff time. Blank hours would remain blank. Renee rose from the table. And if nobody signs every night? Then this home plan is incomplete, Alana said. Mavis will need another setting while the review continues. That could mean more hospital time or short-term rehabilitation. It could also lead to a different long-term choice. Renee took her envelope but left Paul's with Alana. For the first time, she could not carry his answer into the room herself. The blank nights were no longer a flaw she could explain away. Paul had to place his own name beside them. Mavis remained in the hospital through the weekend. During week 3, staff began discussing short-term rehabilitation for her wrist and mobility. I received no new location or visiting time, but I still repaired the loose cuff on her green sweater. Wednesday afternoon of week 3, I drove to the hospital after work. The sweater rested in a paper bag beside me. Mavis's room door stood open, and her stripped bed had no name above it. A clean water cup sat upside down near the sink. The chair where I had waited was pushed against the wall. I checked the room number twice, then stood in the doorway with the sweater bag hanging from my hand. The empty room gave me the answer before Renee did. Mavis had been moved without anyone telling me. I called Renee from the hall. She went to rehabilitation at noon, Renee said. Which facility? I asked. Renee answered, You do not need to follow every transfer. I came to visit her, not direct her care, I said. Renee named a rehabilitation center 3 miles away. Then her voice hardened. I authorized the transfer, she said. Her wrist needs therapy, and the hospital agreed. Did Mavis agree? I asked. She understood where she was going, Renee replied. That was not my question, I said. Renee paused before answering. I have the authority to handle placement details. The document might let her act in some situations. It did not make Mavis's current preference disappear. I asked whether Mavis had requested that I stay away. She needs calm, Renee said. Every visit with you becomes another attack on the plan. I have not asked her to reject your plan, I said. Renee answered. You keep handing people reasons to reject it. I looked into the empty room. The repaired sweater was the only proof that I had expected ordinary contact. Tell Mavis I came, I said. Do not drive over there tonight, Renee replied, before ending the call. I drove there anyway, without rushing. I did not know whether Mavis had asked for privacy, rest, or distance from me. The rehabilitation building was smaller than the hospital. A rack of blank visitor badges stood beside the reception desk. I gave my name and asked to see Mavis Kerr. Reception staff checked the visitor list, then reviewed a notice attached to it. My name did not appear among the approved visitors. The restriction had followed Mavis across 3 miles, and I still did not know whether it came from her. I held the sweater against my work shirt and waited. Before leaving, I needed that question placed into the open. Was Mavis refusing my visit, or was Renee speaking in her place? Reception staff checked the list again, but no visitor badge was offered to me. The notice said my access was temporarily restricted at Renee's request. The facility was reviewing her document and Mavis's current wishes. That was a temporary facility decision. Nobody claimed Renee could erase any visitor everywhere. I am requesting a brief visit, I said. I am not asking for medical information or care authority. The staff member entered my request into the visit record. She pointed to the waiting area while the review continued. Renee came through the secured doors several minutes later. She still wore her hospital parking tag on one wrist. I told you not to come, Renee said. You did, I answered. Mavis did not, Renee said. She is tired, confused, and trying to recover. Then ask her when she is clear enough, I replied. Renee looked toward the reception desk. You are making staff choose between us. I asked them to record a visit request, I said. That is all. She lowered her voice. Your reports caused this transfer. The fall caused another hospital review, I replied. One fall, Renee said. Paul's house still gives her more freedom than a facility. That choice belongs to Mavis when she can make it, I said. Renee stared at the paper bag. What is that? Her sweater, I answered. I repaired the cuff. You can leave it with me, Renee said. I kept hold of the handles. Did Mavis ask not to see me? She asked for less fighting, Renee replied. That is not the same answer, I said. Renee stepped closer. Every time you appear, she thinks she must protect your feelings. The words struck because they could contain some truth. Mavis had spent years worrying about becoming my burden. I still needed her own answer, so I turned back to reception. Please record that I requested contact only, I said. Also record that I will accept her decision. The request went into the facility record. The restriction remained while staff reviewed Renee's request and Mavis's wishes. I received no badge, and I did not pass the secured doors or demand a room number. Renee watched me leave with the sweater still in my hand. My loss of care control had now become physical distance. Mavis could no longer see that I had come. I could not hear whether she wanted me there. A broad fight might turn her into property disputed by 2 angry people. I needed a narrower way back through those doors. Thursday morning, I took the sweater and my records to Judith, the elder law advisor. She listened while I described the transfer and denied visit. Then she read the temporary restriction from the rehabilitation center. I want contact, I said. I do not want control over her placement. Judith set the notice beside my calendar. Keep that distinction clear. What can I ask for? I said. A supervised visit and a direct review of Mavis's current wishes, Judith replied. I nodded. That is enough. It may need to be enough for now, Judith said. She warned me about the broader route. A guardianship fight could ask a court to place someone else over Mavis's decisions. That would consume time and savings, Judith said. It could also reduce the agency you say you want protected. I do not want to replace Renee as the person in charge, I said. Good, Judith replied. Your marriage never gave you that right. I looked at the repaired cuff inside the bag. I want Mavis asked whether she wants to see me. Judith drew a line down the center of a legal pad. On one side, she wrote contact, and on the other, she wrote control. Under contact, she listed a supervised visit, Mavis's current preference, and a neutral record of the answer. The control side stayed empty. What about the safety review? I asked. That remains separate, but it helps show your purpose, Judith said. Alana has documented the fall, blank shifts, and your own error. Judith said the rehabilitation center needed facts from a source outside our marriage. Alana's review could provide them without making me Mavis's decision-maker. I will not ask Alana to recommend me as caregiver, I said. Ask only for the documented review already underway, Judith replied. Judith drafted a short request, asking the facility to confirm Mavis's preference during a clear interval. If Mavis wanted contact, I requested one supervised visit. If she refused, I asked that her refusal be recorded and honored. Judith read the language aloud. Nothing demanded private medical details or authority over treatment. I signed the request. The sweater? Judith asked. I will bring it if Mavis says yes, I replied. That answer marked a change I could feel. I had entered Judith's office ready to fight for family standing. I left asking only for Mavis's choice to reach me without Renee changing it. Judith would send the limited request that morning. She still needed Alana's documented safety review to support it. Until that record arrived, the visitor badge remained out of reach. Friday morning of week 3, Judith and I met Alana in the Rehabilitation Administration room. The room held a round table, 3 chairs, and 1 locked records cabinet. My signed request rested between us beside the complete care calendar. Alana read Judith's letter twice before looking at me. I can confirm that a safety review continues, Alana said. I cannot share protected updates supplied by Renee. Protected updates meant private care information, not secret authority over Mavis. I nodded and kept my hands away from the records. I am not asking what Renee reported, I said. I am asking for Mavis to be asked about seeing me. Judith moved the letter toward Alana. The request separates contact from care approval. Alana studied the 2 lines Judith had marked. One concerned a supervised visit, while the other concerned any future discharge plan. Renee says your visits may pressure Mavis, Alana said. That concern can be observed during a supervised visit, Judith replied. It does not need to be guessed. I opened my calendar to the week of Paul's trial. The empty overnight spaces remained plain against the white paper. I will not discuss placement with Mavis, I said. I will not ask her to choose between Renee and me. Alana asked whether I would follow rehabilitation rules during the visit. Those rules barred me from handling medicine, transfers, or personal care. I will sit where they tell me, I said. If Mavis refuses contact, I will leave. Alana wrote my answer beneath the request, then drew a line across her own page. Visitation is one question, she said. Approval of a discharge plan is another. The words did not open the secured doors, but they changed the record. Renee could still oppose my visit, though she could not make my labor the price of asking. Alana said the home care review would also change. Every proposed caregiver would need to accept each assigned shift directly. A name written by Renee would no longer count as confirmation. An emergency number would not count as promised labor either. Does that include me? I asked. It includes everyone, Alana replied. You may accept a shift, refuse it, or leave it blank. Judith placed my signed non-consent statement beside the calendar. Graham has already refused undocumented backup work. Alana accepted the statement without promising any final result. She would send only the facts needed for the neutral review. The rehabilitation center would decide whether a supervised visit could proceed. Mavis would be asked during a clear period, away from our arguments. I gathered the calendar, but Judith left the limited request behind. That paper now asked 2 separate questions instead of 1 loaded question. By noon, Alana called Judith with the first answer. Mavis had agreed to see me under supervision that afternoon. I still needed to enter as a visitor, not a worker. More important, Mavis needed room to decide what kind of visitor I would be. Friday afternoon, a temporary badge waited for me beyond the reception desk. It carried my name, the word visitor, and an expiration time. Judith walked beside me through the secured doors. I carried the repaired sweater in its paper bag. Facility rules allowed 20 minutes in Mavis's rehabilitation room. I could not manage medicine, lift her, or perform any care task. Mavis, my mother-in-law, sat near the window with her wrist supported. An empty pill organizer lay open on the rolling table. She looked at my badge before she looked at my face. They finally let you come to work, Mavis said. I came to visit you, I replied. Her eyes moved toward the sweater bag. Did the cuff tear again? I fixed it, but you decide whether you want it. I set the bag on the visitor chair instead of opening it. Mavis watched that small choice with a guarded expression. Judith remained near the closed door, giving us as much distance as the rules allowed. Mavis reached toward the rolling table. "The pills need sorting before supper." My hand moved from habit, but I stopped before touching anything. The organizer was empty, and the staff handled her medicine. "I'm not allowed to do that here," I said. "I'm also not here for a shift." Mavis placed her palm on the organizer and closed its lid. The plastic snap sounded sharp inside the quiet room. "Then sit down, Graham," she said. I moved the sweater bag onto the floor and took the visitor chair. For years, I had stood beside her bed, her stove, or her bathroom door. Sitting felt almost careless, though nothing unsafe happened because I rested. Mavis pulled the repaired sweater from the bag and examined the cuff. "You used the gray thread," she said. "It was the closest match I had." "It never matches," Mavis replied. "That is how I know you fixed it." Her mouth lifted for a moment, then settled again. She asked why I had stayed away after the transfer. "I came Wednesday, but the center was reviewing the restriction," I said. "I asked them to follow your answer." Mavis looked toward Judith. "Was that what all the paper was about?" Judith answered from near the door. "Only whether you wanted this visit." Mavis turned back to me. "I wanted it." Relief rose too fast, so I kept my voice level. "I will leave whenever you want me to leave." She held the sweater against her chest. "I did not ask Renee to keep you out." I did not ask what Renee had told the center. That belonged in the review, not inside Mavis's 20 minutes. Instead, I asked whether she wanted me to return as a visitor. Mavis looked again at the badge hanging from my shirt. "Yes," she said. "But next time, use the chair sooner." When our time ended, I stood without touching the organizer. Mavis had welcomed me back. Yet she had also closed the tool that once defined my place. The badge restored contact without restoring my old duties. I still needed to hear whether she believed family could remain after the night shifts ended. Monday of week 4, I wore another visitor badge into the rehabilitation family room. Mavis sat at a square table with 2 cups of coffee. She had chosen the chair facing the door, where she could see me arrive. I sat across from her before she needed to ask. "You learn slowly," Mavis said. "I spent years learning the other job." She wrapped both hands around her cup. "That is what worries me." I waited while a cart rolled past the open doorway. Mavis followed it with her eyes until the hallway grew quiet. "Renee says you want me put away?" she said. "I want you to choose from safe options," I replied. "I do not control where you go." Mavis rubbed one thumb along the cup's paper seam. "Paul's house has that good ramp." "It does, and the bathroom worked well for you." "The nights did not work," she said. "No, they did not." Mavis asked whether some places kept a person awake overnight. I told her that licensed memory care provided residential support with staff present all day and night. "That sounds expensive," she said. "It may be, and the benefits review is still underway." She looked down at her coffee. "It also sounds like admitting I cannot go home." I did not correct the word home or offer her mine. Both choices would have pushed her toward comforting me. "It means asking what support you need now," I said. Mavis lifted her eyes. "Would you come if I lived there?" "Yes. If you wanted me," I said. "What if I did not give you pills or night duty?" "I would still come." Her shoulders lowered, though her hands stayed around the cup. She had treated my labor as proof because I had done the same. "I thought releasing you meant losing you," she said. "I thought being useful was how I stayed family." Mavis gave a tired shake of her head. "You married my daughter, Graham. Then you stayed through everything else." "Our marriage may not survive this," I said. "That does not answer what you are to me." I looked at the visitor badge against my shirt. It granted no control, but Mavis had asked for the person wearing it. "What do you want me to be?" I asked. "My family," she replied. "Not every night." The answer hurt more cleanly than rejection would have hurt. It removed the duty I understood and left a relationship I could not earn by working. Mavis wanted awake staff when she needed help at night. She also wanted my visits without making me responsible for those nights. I promised only what belonged to me. I would visit when she wanted, and I would not claim authority through those visits. Mavis finished her coffee, then pushed the empty cup aside. "Renee will not like that answer." She was right, because Renee still controlled the offer she planned to make. My desire to see Mavis had become the strongest pressure point left. Tuesday evening of week 4, Renee, my wife, waited at our kitchen table with a folder. 2 dinner plates sat untouched beside the sink. Her folder covered the spot where my medication calendar once stayed. I heard about the family room visit, Renee said. Mavis asked for it. Renee opened the folder and turned one page toward me. Paul's name appeared above the daytime shifts, while my number remained under emergency backup. I can end the supervised visits, she said. You could see her normally again. You can withdraw your restriction request, I replied. The center still decides its own access rules. Renee pressed one finger against the signature line. They will follow my recommendation if we present one stable plan. Her offer had two clear conditions. I had to endorse Paul's home plan and remain available as emergency backup. What does emergency mean this time? I asked. A true emergency, Renee replied. Not routine care. The last uncovered night became an emergency because nobody accepted it. Paul can handle most nights once Mavis settles, she said. Then he can put his initials beside them. Renee closed the folder halfway. You know schedules change when an older person comes home. I know they do, which is why every shift needs a person. She said I was turning family care into a contract dispute. I looked at the empty signature line and kept my hands under the table. You brought me a signature in exchange for access, I said. That is not a private favor between spouses. Renee's face tightened at the word spouses. Our private life has nothing to do with Mavis's care. I did not mention the affair, I said. You did not need to. The room went quiet around the humming refrigerator. I felt anger rise, but anger would not fill the blank overnight spaces. Ask Paul to accept every night without calling me, I said. If he agrees, the paper will show it. Renee leaned back from the table. You want him to fail in public? I want his answer in the planning record, I replied. You already know he needs flexibility. Then your plan still needs my labor. Renee opened the folder again and tapped the backup line. One signature gets you unrestricted time with Mavis. The bargain tempted me because it offered something real. I could sit with Mavis without a clock, a badge, or Judith by the door. The cost was also real. My signature would turn an unsupported promise into apparent consent. I pushed the folder back across the table. I will not trade labor for family contact, I said. Put the shift sheet before Paul. Renee gathered the pages without answering. Her offer had made the access condition explicit, and she could no longer call my role accidental. Before any home plan advanced, Paul had to answer for himself. Every overnight line needed his initials, without my name beneath them. Wednesday afternoon of week 4, I carried the shift sheet to Paul's house. Paul, Renee's lover and proposed caregiver, met me beside the open garage. His accessible van stood inside with the side ramp folded away. The house still looked ready from the curb. A smooth walkway reached the porch, and the temporary ramp remained firm beneath my shoes. Paul led me to his dining table without offering coffee. I placed the sheet, a pen, and my non-consent statement between us. Initial every shift you will cover without me, I said. Paul read the daytime rows first. He initialed breakfast, lunch, appointments, and most evening blocks. He described the shower seat and the handrail near the toilet. He had also moved a bed into the front room again. Those preparations matter, I said. They do not cover midnight through 7. Paul turned the page and checked the notes beneath Thursday. The overnight columns stayed clean. I can respond if something unusual happens, he said, from inside the house. If I am there. I slid the pen closer without repeating the question. Paul picked it up, but he signed another afternoon appointment instead. He explained that his work schedule changed with little notice. He could drive Mavis and prepare food on most weekdays. I pointed to Monday night. Will you accept this shift without calling me? Paul looked toward the ramp through the dining room window. Renee said family backup would remain available. I am the family backup she promised. His eyes returned to my signed refusal. He read it slowly, then set it beside the shift sheet. She did not tell me you had refused, Paul said. She did not ask me before listing me. Paul rubbed the pen between both palms. He talked about emergencies, neighbors, and a medical alert button. None of those answers placed an awake person in the house. None placed his initials beside a single overnight block. I asked about Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. Paul moved down each row, but the pen never touched the paper. The ramp, van, rails, and front bedroom remained useful preparations. They could not replace a person who had agreed to stay. Paul finally capped the pen and pushed both pages toward me. Every overnight line remained unsigned. We have the planning conference tomorrow, I said. Bring this sheet and give the same answer there. I have not given you an answer, Paul replied. You left 8 answers blank. His jaw tightened. though he did not take back the paper. He agreed that the rehabilitation meeting needed an accurate schedule. I photographed nothing and asked for no private promise. Paul folded the unsigned sheet and placed it inside the conference folder himself. His limits were now visible, but Renee could still call the blanks unfinished. The next question had to be spoken where both of them could hear it. Thursday of week 4, the three of us met inside the rehabilitation planning room. Paul placed the folded shift sheet on the table. Renee sat beside him, while I took the chair across from them. The room had a whiteboard, a telephone, and no family photographs. Nothing there could soften the blank overnight columns. Renee opened by describing Paul's accessible house and dependable daytime help. She listed the ramp, van, bathroom rails, and front bedroom. I let her finish before unfolding the sheet. Paul's initials covered much of the day, but every night remained empty. "Paul, will you take full overnight responsibility without calling me?" I asked. Renee answered before he could speak. "Nobody expects one person to handle every possible emergency." "I asked about assigned nights, not every possible emergency." She turned toward Paul and touched his sleeve. "We are building a future together, and families support each other." Paul kept his eyes on the unsigned columns. His capped pen lay beside his hand. Renee said my number would serve like any relative's number. She called it ordinary emergency support, not scheduled work. "The first trial already tested that description," I said. An empty night ended with a call to me. Renee looked directly at Paul. "Tell him you can manage the house." Paul lifted the pen, then placed it across the empty night rows. The small movement divided his daytime promises from everything Renee claimed after dark. "I will not take the nights unless Graham stays available," Paul said. Renee removed her hand from his sleeve. "That was never our agreement." "It was the plan you gave me," Paul replied. "The plan said emergency backup." Paul looked at me rather than Renee. "I thought he had agreed." "He did not," Renee said. "But families adjust when someone needs help." I felt the old pull inside that sentence. For years, adjusting had meant my sleep, my workday, and my body filled whatever space stayed empty. Paul pushed the sheet toward Renee. "I cannot promise those nights alone." Renee stared at his untouched initials column. Their replacement plan had depended on my availability, though neither of them had secured it. The admission did not erase the ramp or his daytime help. It simply exposed his actual limit before another trial could hide it. Renee closed the folder with more force than needed. Paul left his pen on the table and moved his chair away from hers. Their affair remained their choice, but their practical alliance had failed. Paul would not become the independent replacement Renee had presented. I had obtained the direct answer, and it carried a harder consequence. Without Paul's nights or my backup, neither home plan had complete staffing. My calendar could prove that pattern across every disputed shift. It would also reveal my missed medication entry without excuse or concealment. Submitting the complete record could end both home plans. It could also end Renee's last reason to keep bargaining with me. I gathered the calendar and my signed refusal. The next decision belonged to me, and partial truth would no longer be enough. Friday of week 4, I carried my records into Judith's office. Judith, the elder law advisor, cleared one end of her desk. I laid out the care calendar, medication sheets, and shift records. The pages covered months of ordinary work, morning pills, evening meals, appointments, laundry, and nights when Mavis called from her room. My marks filled most boxes, showing devotion, but also fatigue. Judith placed the records in date order without skipping the week of my mistake. The missed evening pill sat between 2 completed days. I had found it unopened the next morning, called the nurse, followed her directions, and recorded the error. "That stays," I said. Judith looked across the desk. "It weakens any claim that you never made mistakes." "I am not making that claim." "It also strengthens the record," Judith said. I knew what she meant. A complete calendar could be trusted in ways a polished one could not. We added the house trial next. Paul's daytime initials stopped where the overnight work began. My notes showed his call during the uncovered night, including when I arrived and left. Judith drew no conclusions in the margin and kept the wording plain. Paul had not accepted the shift, and Renee had listed me without consent. I had responded because Mavis needed help. The record did not call anyone evil. It simply showed who had agreed to work. Judith placed my non-consent statement beside the full calendar. It said I would not serve as scheduled or emergency labor. It also said I wanted contact with Mavis's family. "Those are separate requests," Judith said. "They have to be." She asked whether I understood what the refusal might cause. Without my labor, both home plans could fail. My daily role could end, and Renee could stop bargaining and end our marriage. For weeks, I had imagined truth restoring my proper place. The calendar showed no safe place had ever been built around one tired person. I signed and dated the statement. Judith made copies, then handed the original back. Every mark remained visible, including the one I wished I could remove. I slipped the papers into a brown folder. It felt lighter than the care bag I used to carry, but it cost more to lift. Before I left, Judith reminded me that Renee could still revise her proposal. She could name willing people for every shift. Or she could ask for my signature one last time. I carried the folder to my truck without opening it. On Monday, Renee would have one final chance to offer access for my labor. Monday of week 5, I entered the licensed care planning room with my folder. Renee already sat at the table with an empty chair beside her. Alana, the hospital safety coordinator, had returned for the final review. She placed Renee's latest proposal between us. Paul's name remained beside the daytime blocks. The overnight spaces contained general phrases about family support. My phone number still appeared under emergency backup. Alana tapped that line. "Has Graham accepted this role?" Renee kept her eyes on me. "He has not signed yet." "That was not my question," Alana said. "No," Renee replied, "but he can accept today." Alana turned each page without rushing. She asked who would stay Monday night and then Tuesday night. Renee said Paul could manage many evenings. She said neighbors and alert devices could cover unexpected needs. Alana returned to the empty overnight rows. "Which person has agreed to remain responsible?" Renee folded her hands. "Graham knows Mavis better than anyone." "That does not create consent," Alana said. I kept my folder closed because the home proposal needed to stand before I answered it. Renee described Mavis's fear of residential care. She said unfamiliar rooms could deepen her confusion. Then she offered me what she had withheld. "If you sign as emergency backup, I will restore full family access," Renee said. "You can visit and receive care updates." The bargain reached across the table. My place in Mavis's life would depend on accepting the same hidden work. Alana asked Renee to state the offer again. Renee faced me. "Sign the plan, and I will stop limiting your access." "And if I refuse?" I asked. "Then there is no complete home plan," Renee said. "Mavis may have to enter care because you walked away." The words found every sore place I carried. They also confirmed that my labor remained the support beneath her promise. Alana wrote one sentence on the review sheet. The proposal depended on Graham's signed acceptance as emergency backup. That changed the meeting because the flexible family understanding became a direct condition. I opened my folder and placed the full calendar beside Renee's proposal. Alana compared the pages. She noted the uncovered nights, Paul's unsigned rows, and my medication mistake. "Mavis asked whether trained staff stay available at night," Alana said. "She needs the real answer for each option." Renee said Mavis wanted home. "She must choose from plans that exist," Alana replied. The next meeting was set for Tuesday morning. Mavis would attend during a clear period. I left both documents on Alana's table. By then, I had to sign Renee's promise or publicly remove my labor from it. Tuesday morning of week 5, I returned for the final planning meeting. Mavis, my mother-in-law, sat beside Renee. Her pill organizer rested near one hand. Alana placed the home proposal in front of me, with my phone number below Paul's name. The line promised my help during nights, emergencies, and uncovered shifts. Alana set a black pen beside the page. My complete calendar remained open to the missed medication entry. Renee leaned toward me. "You know what refusal means." I read the backup line again. "It could force placement," she said. "You could lose daily access to Mavis." I placed one finger beneath my printed number. Renee lowered her voice. "This will finish our marriage." Mavis watched my hand. I could not tell what she wanted from my face, so I kept it still. I picked up the pen and drew one straight line through my phone number. Then I crossed out the words promising emergency backup. The pen dragged where the paper had absorbed too much ink. I waited until the line was complete. Beside it, I wrote that I did not consent to scheduled or emergency care. I signed my name and added the date. Renee released a short breath but did not reach for the paper. I slid the proposal to Alana, then opened my brown folder. The calendar came first. My daily marks covered months of meals, medicine, appointments, and nights. I placed Paul's shift sheet beside it. His daytime initials ended before each overnight block. Last came my signed non-consent statement. It asked for family contact without assigning me labor. Alana reviewed the pages in that order. She did not hide my missed evening pill or soften Paul's blank nights. Renee pointed to the calendar. That mistake is why Graham should not control the plan. I agree that it matters, I said. My answer stopped her for a moment. I explained only what the record showed. I had missed one evening pill while exhausted, found it the next morning, and called the nurse. The error belonged in the decision, along with every unstaffed night. Alana placed the calendar beneath the proposal. Neither home option has a willing person for every required shift. Renee said relatives could still respond when needed. Alana pointed to my crossed-out number. Not this relative. The room went quiet. My refusal did not place Mavis anywhere. It removed labor that had never been promised. Still, the effect was immediate. Paul's house could not cover the nights, while Renee's other schedule depended on the same missing help. Both plans failed on their own stated terms. Renee moved her chair a few inches from mine. The small sound ended something I had carried for weeks. Alana gathered the papers into one complete file. My mistake stayed visible beside my refusal. I had not saved my daily role. I had ended it with my own hand. Mavis now had to hear the full facts without any hidden promise beneath them. Alana turned the completed schedule toward Mavis. The Tuesday meeting continued, but the choice had changed. No one could treat my labor as available. I folded my hands in my lap and stayed silent. Alana reviewed the first home option. Paul had accepted daytime help, transportation, meals, and appointments. He had not accepted full overnight responsibility without me. Then Alana reviewed the other home schedule. Renee could coordinate parts of it, but several nights remained uncovered. My crossed-out number could not fill those spaces. Mavis touched the calendar's edge. What did Graham do wrong? Alana showed her the missed medication entry. She explained that I had missed one evening pill while exhausted. I had found it unopened the next morning, called the nurse, followed her directions, and recorded the error. Renee leaned closer to her mother. He was exhausted because the old plan asked too much. Mavis looked at me, but I did not defend myself. Alana explained that one documented mistake mattered. Missing staff across repeated nights created a different risk. Mavis tapped Paul's blank rows. He will not stay? Not unless Graham remains available, Alana said. And Graham said no. Yes, Alana replied. Renee touched her mother's sleeve. We can still work something out. You always said you feared being put away. Mavis pulled her sleeve free without anger. I said I did not want to ruin your lives. You would not ruin anything, Renee said. Mavis looked at the separate chairs around the table. You are already losing things. Renee's eyes moved toward me. Home is familiar. That matters when memory starts slipping. Alana agreed that familiarity could help, then described the assessed option. Memory care meant licensed residential support with continuous staff. Mavis would have her own room, meals, medicine support, and help through every night. Mavis asked the question she had raised before. Someone is awake at night? Staff remain on duty all night, Alana said. And Graham would not have to come. No, Alana replied. Mavis rested both hands around the pill organizer and pressed the lid until it clicked shut. Renee tried once more. You do not have to choose this because Graham refused. Mavis faced her daughter. I am choosing it because now I know the truth. She asked whether she could still see us. Alana said Mavis could name the people she wanted as visitors. Mavis looked at Renee first, then looked at me. I want my daughter, she said. I want Graham as family. She did not ask me to manage her pills or assign me another night. Mavis placed the closed organizer beside Alana's papers. I choose the place with staff. The sentence carried relief and loss together. Renee sat back, and I finally released the breath I had held. Mavis had not chosen between two men or houses. She had chosen a real schedule over an assumed one. Assessment, benefits review, and intake still had to be completed. Her choice had made that work possible. The next visible step would be a room with her name on the door. During the 6th week, intake day arrived. On Monday morning, I carried one box into Mavis's new room. Renee followed with a smaller bag. The room held a bed, 2 visitor chairs, and a wall calendar. Mavis's name had been placed beside the door. Alana joined us for the final transfer. The assessment and benefits review had taken the weeks since Mavis entered rehabilitation. I set the box on a low table. Inside were family photographs, her old recipe book, and the blue sweater she liked. Mavis had asked me to provide family history, so I kept to that part. I explained which photograph showed her sister. I identified the church picnic and the house where Renee grew up. Alana recorded only the details needed to help Mavis settle. The care staff already had the medical instructions. My hands still searched for work. I straightened the blanket, then reached toward the pill organizer. Alana had placed it with the daily care materials. "That goes to staff," she said. I stopped before touching it. The medication notebook went with it, along with the appointment folder and printed care calendar. I had carried those things for years. Now I handed them across the table and stepped back. Renee watched the transfer without arguing. Her final home proposal stayed closed inside her bag. When Mavis turned toward the window, Renee spoke quietly. "Paul left." I waited for the rest. "He left the care plan first," Renee said. "Then he left me." Her voice stayed level. She did not blame me or ask for comfort. "I filed for divorce this morning," Renee said. The news hurt, though it did not surprise me. Our marriage had survived through habit long after trust left it. "I will respond when the papers come," I said. Renee nodded. She looked older than she had beside Paul's van. Alana opened the visitor page, where my name remained as an approved visitor. Renee had not removed it. "I told them Mavis asked for you," she said. "That part is not mine to take away." It was the first limit Renee accepted, without turning it into a bargain. She signed the placement papers as Mavis's daughter and lawful agent where the documents allowed. Mavis signed her own consent during the clear interval. Nothing restored what the affair and care fight had broken. Paul lost the future he had claimed, while Renee lost him and filed for divorce. I lost the daily role that had shaped my life. Before leaving, I placed the family photographs where Mavis could see them. I did not arrange her pills or ask about the next dose. My first ordinary visit was set for Friday afternoon. I left empty-handed, unsure whether Mavis would still need me when I returned. Friday afternoon of week 6, I returned without a care bag. The approved visitor badge felt light against my shirt, though I noticed it with every step. Mavis sat near the window with her wall calendar beside her. One visitor chair faced her bed. "You came," she said. "I said I would." I set 2 bakery cookies on the table. They were the soft kind she liked, with no hard edge. Mavis broke one in half and gave me the larger piece. We talked about ordinary things. She asked about the school hallways and the floor machine. I told her someone had spilled purple paint near the art room. The stain had shaped itself like Pennsylvania. "That sounds better than most maps," Mavis said. Her laugh came easily, and I had not heard it that way in weeks. A pill organizer sat near the water cup. Staff had prepared it before I arrived, but one lid stood open. My hand moved before I made a choice. I leaned forward and reached across the table. Mavis closed the lid beneath my fingers, and the small click stopped me. "They handle that now," she said. "I was only checking." "I know what you were doing," Mavis said. She pointed toward the chair across from her. "You sit there." I drew my hand back and sat. For a moment, I had nothing to hold. No chart rested on my knee, and no alarm waited in my pocket. Mavis ate the other half of her cookie. She did not ask whether I had checked the water or counted the pills. She asked whether the purple stain had come out. "Most of it," I said. "The mountains are still there." "Leave them," Mavis said. "Pennsylvania needs mountains." We sat without planning the next dose. A staff cart passed in the hall, then continued beyond her door. I felt the old reflex each time I heard movement. But I did not stand. Mavis reached for the wall calendar, where several appointments appeared in a neat hand. She found the next Friday and looked at me. "School lets out before 3? "Most days." "Then 4 o'clock, Mavis said. I watched her pick up a blue pen. "If you know someone who believes love must be earned through work, ask them to sit down and stay a while." Mavis drew a circle around Friday. She wrote my name inside it, then returned the pen to the table. The pill organizer stayed closed between us. My hands rested empty on the visitor chair. I would return on the circled day because Mavis wanted me there. This time, that was enough. As Graham finally found the peace of simply being family, we want to thank you, the viewers, for watching his journey unfold to the very end. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Graham's difficult decision to enforce his boundaries, and how do you view Renee's ultimate choices? If you appreciate narratives that explore these complicated emotional truths, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel Infidelity Director. Ultimately, Graham's story leaves us with a beautiful reminder. True love isn't measured by how much of yourself you sacrifice, but by the healthy boundaries that allow genuine connections to finally thrive.